Ghost, Aliens, and Beyond.
Hi all, it's your host Phil from Ghost, Aliens and Beyond podcast. I just want to apologise. My microphone, I didn't know until afterwards, has decided to muck up on me. So YouTube show, you can see the Rode microphone was not good. But it seems to have a bit of statical noise with it. I've tried every trick in the book to fix it. It hasn't done it. It's just not working, unfortunately. We've had a few ghost problems, I could say. But please, guys, just bear with it. We will be back to normal, hopefully in episode 2. But enjoy this one as much as you can. And as all I can say is sorry. So let's get into the episode. Hi all, and welcome to season 2 of Ghost, Aliens and Beyond. And if anybody wonders why this gave the camera a strange look, I nearly said ram football, got what show I was doing, and I thought I need to remember. Anyway, me and Simon are back. So Simon, how you been?
I'm okay. Sounds like I've got a ghost in me here. I've got a crackle. I don't know if it'll come through on the podcast or the video, but Phil said it's sorted in post. But we have a ghost on the show. But no, I'm fine, mate. I've, as you can probably see if you're watching this on YouTube, I've still not had a haircut. So I look like a ghost with a host.
You're all good.
Who is I got the most?
You're all good, though.
Yeah, I'm fine.
So,
Cracking on with things.
doing well, and that's what I like to hear. Obviously, me and Simon do loads of podcasts with you, and before I forget it, we're back on Orlando together now with Craig. So go and check that out, please. That's just a podcast, not YouTube, just a podcast, and it's a bloody great one.
Yeah, it's all about trip planning to Florida.
Right, guys, I am just going to explain, though. Season 2 is a bit different. Instead of just going into things like ghosts and aliens and things like that, we decided to also bring in conspiracy theories, and we had to bring in one of the biggest ones so far, and that would be flat earthers. So before you say anything, just let me roll a few things out. Apparently, this was started by Samuel Burley Robotham, I believe. He was born 1816. His first test was at the Old Bedford River in England in 1838. He wanted to test the curvature of the planet to prove it was flat. So his test was with a telescope. This is quite funny to me. With a boat and a flag, and let the boat go away from him. Around like 10 kilometers, I believe. Nothing, noting the flag stayed visible the whole time. So that was his way of proving the Earth was flat. Now, obviously, there was ways around this. Boats at sea is the counter argument, because you'll see the stern and the boat part disappear while you still see the
the bow.
The bow. I don't know. I'm not a boat person. I don't even like boats.
You'll see the bow disappear on the horizon, but you'll still see the stacks on top of the boats.
That's the one. He also believes the North Pole, and all of them think that now, is the center of the Earth, because the Earth's meant to be a flat disk, apparently. And the outer edge is a 45-meter ice wall.
Yeah, I read that one. All I got in my head was, do not go over the wall.
Yes. And apparently the flat Earth is answers to gravity. The Earth is accelerating upwards at 9.8 meters per second squared. Dark energy is pushing us up. We don't even understand dark energy, so I don't know how they're using that. They think all the other planets are like our spheres, though. They don't think they're flat, but they think they're very tiny. So that's it really on them. So Simon, give me your thought on flat earthers.
Plain and simple, they're idiots. It's right. If you know anything about geometry, anything about maths or anything like that, it is simple. Have you ever seen the moon disappear with an arch? Why do we get that arch? Because the Earth is circular. And because it's circular, you can see the Earth crescent, the moon crescent, anywhere on Earth at different times of the year, and it's always an arc. So you get a crescent and a moon. You always get a crescent all the time. Say when you do a solar eclipse, when there's a lunar eclipse, and the only way to see that anywhere on Earth is that the Earth is a ball. It's a cylindrical sphere. It has to be to get the same effect anywhere on Earth. If we were flat, it would be a straight line in Australia. It could be a triangle in England. It's just people are idiots if they think. Sorry if you are and you're listening to this. Come on, I'll have a debate with you. I'll just shoot you down every second.
You know what? If you have a debate, I'd actually love that. If anybody is out there, I will be the man in the middle because, quite frankly, truthfully, scientifically, I don't care if it's flat or a sphere. Personally, we live on
the prime example is as well. If you ever do anything, they try and say that the stars are a certain way, but it's simple. You look at a star. You look at a star at the bottom. If you froze time, which obviously you can't, but if you did, you froze time for a split second and look at that star wouldn't move. But you can't see anything below it because of the horizon. But you go up into a mountain, how come you can see further down and see more stars? Oh, wait a second, because the Earth goes that way.
Also,
it's got to bend.
Also, if you go to the other side of the Earth, say from England, and
You can't see the same ones.
Yeah, you see totally different stars. But
and I've looked at the map. I think we've both looked at the same map on Wikipedia, was it, of the Earth? Why would it take 18 hours to get to Australia when, if you measure it from England to Australia, to one side of Australia, it's the same distance as here to California? But it takes 12 hours to get to California, but it takes 18 hours to get to one side of Australia. So if you flew in a straight line, if the Earth was flat, it would take the same amount of time. But obviously it doesn't, because it's got to go round.
Fair enough. And what I do like in some of their groups on Facebook is the flat Earth.
Well, I did notice that there was the last about 1953. A guy started a movement up about flat earthers, and he had about 9,000 members, and I believe they've now got over 250,000 members.
I can believe because they think about.
The thing is about I understand why they believe the Earth is flat, because they haven't got the trust in what they're seeing. They don't trust the government. They don't trust what they're seeing on TV. They don't trust scientists. That's the main thing. When you've got 2 centuries of scientists telling that the Earth is round and it's a sphere, but you've got no trust, you're not going to believe them. And that's what it is. You don't trust the government. You don't trust the scientists. So you're going to believe what you want to believe. And that's fine. Don't get me wrong. It's not a problem if you do believe the Earth is flat. It's just that science proves that it isn't. Physically looking at stuff proves that it isn't. And if you've ever been on an aeroplane, don't give me that bullshit about the convex of the windows makes the Earth look curved. That's the biggest bollocks I've ever heard in my life. But
as well, there is a test out there that flat Earth's like using. It's usually with a torch, and it can go over a distance, and you can be a certain distance, and it could hit the other person in the face. Yeah, again, that's their proof. What they don't understand, though, that is more to do with light. Is it?
That's how far the actual light can travel. But if you can get a laser, obviously don't pellet.
What I mean is it's apparently what's do is the atmosphere. The light is denser down here and it gets easier. So what happens? It curves the light. Apparently, what that means is it's an optical illusion that makes it look like it's flat when it's not actually flat. So this is why you get like mirages and when the Earth we get what's it called? The heat on the roads and that.
Yeah, it's like a ripple effect of heat.
Yeah. No, that is just that's a light effect.
It's heat waves. It's heat waves that we can't see, but it distorts the horizon behind you, so it makes it look like it's wiggling.
Yeah, but that's proof how you can't use the torch effect as a way to prove that the Earth is flat, because you can't. It's just it's not possible, unfortunately.
Yeah, the plain and simple one is if you have a high powered laser, and a laser will only go in a straight line. It can't bend. It can't go around corners. It doesn't do anything. It goes in a perfectly spirit level straight line. You shoot a laser 5 miles away, it will not be at the same height as it was where you started. So if you were at 5 foot and you shot it off, possibly 5 miles away, you'll be at 20 foot or 30 foot. And that's nothing to do with sea level. You could do it at sea level. It's perfect. It's because the curvature of the Earth. It will stay straight, but the Earth bends around. That's why if you shoot a laser at the moon and you get a signal back, because obviously we have been to the moon, unlike some conspiracy theorists that we might get to in a future episode. If you shoot a laser towards the moon at a certain time in a certain place, you get a signal back. And the only way that can happen is that there's man-made materials on the moon. So how we got them up there? Because we went to the moon. But that's just blew out there, that one. But we can have a chat about that another time.
Also, 1946 was the first image of the Earth taken from outer space. Mm-hmm. Yet again, proves it's a fear. Yet again, their argument is it's the world all agreeing to make conspiracy.
Yeah, they're saying it was very, very good CGI back in the day.
Yeah, but I can't figure
the newest one is Elon Musk is not spending all this money sending satellites into space. He's spending all this money to prove that flat earthers are wrong. And he's spending $2.5 million every time he sends a rocket up to put the curvature on the screen of when he's showing the rockets being fired. I'm like, yeah, he's going to waste that money to prove that flat earthers are wrong. Come on, get a grip.
I'm Elon Musk. I'm a multi-billionaire. Right now, I believe he's the richest man on the planet. They're getting on my nerves if I'm him. I would get one of the highest ones who's fit enough to go into space, live camera to them, and interview them and say when they're up there, well, come on then.
It's plain and simple. Look at that guy who went up in with a balloon in a spacesuit and dropped. He went live. You saw him going up live, and you could physically see. Then it baffles my brain when you see all this. Sorry about that. See all this evidence everywhere to prove that the Earth is round. It's a sphere. You can't picture Earth on one side and see the other side of it. But I understand they don't trust what they see. They don't trust what the government are telling them. They don't trust scientists, and that is completely fine. But when so much evidence is against you, you either be very argumentative. Because, to be honest, when people think they're wrong, they seem to argue more. I do it. I've done it many a time. If I feel I'm right, I will argue. Me and Phil have had these conversations many, many times, and we just have a bit of a light discussion and then forget about it. And that's what I would do if you wanted to come on here as a flat earther. I'd have a discussion. I want to find out why you believe the Earth is flat. I will listen to your thingy, to what whatever your beliefs are, and I will tell you what I believe, and then we'll let you go happily on your way.
It's a very strange one. Flat earthers, they don't actually have physical proof. They have what I call made up. To me, sorry, people's going to upset you. It's like the Bible. They don't actually have proof. They just make it up as they go along, and then they just pretend to believe in it. But
the Bible. It's just got that first missing page where it's been ripped out, saying all people represented in this book are fictitious, and if resemble to any normal person is a coincidence.
Yeah, again, religious people.
Sorry, Mum. Sorry, if you're watching this, Mum, sorry. Don't beat me up, please.
Religious people, we're also not against you. And if you would like to come on someone who's very religious and prove to us why we should believe in religion, again, we have no problem. You come on and put your argument. This is not a show to bash things and prove it wrong. This is a show we want to give people an opportunity to come on themselves. Now, Simon, let's get away from the flat earth. Anyway, now that I told you about my house with the ghost stuff, I'm not going to bring up in this part. That's in part 2 with Nick.
Yep.
More ghost stuff is happening in my house, apparently. It was not involving me this time. So when you get to interview with Nic Branch, who's one of the overlords of the After Dark podcast network, he's on with me with a great ghost story and a UFO story. So please, people, wait for that part next. Apparently my nan's house. Now, my nan, she's in her very late 80s, hitting 90s. And so she's staying at her daughter's house while the lockdown's going on again.
Yep.
Obviously, my granddad passed away last year. She's on her own. So anyway, something weird's happened at my nan's house. Either someone's got a key and they're staying in the house on a snide, or the electrics are funny. But anyway, lights are turning themselves on and off different ones. The interesting part is the neighbours are ringing my aunt up saying, did you leave the kitchen light on? Because my mum goes around there, checks on everything as well. My mum,
Right, yeah.
sure that everything's, legit, everything's fine there, nothing's broken, gas still working, all that stuff, electrics. Anyway, so my mum went there one day, she noticed the light on, didn't think anything of it, got it turned off. It was the kitchen, actually. She told me this story this week while on the phone to me. And because she was trying to see if I could have a theory for it. Anyway, a couple of days later, the neighbour rings up my aunt. My mum's been there. She didn't know how to turn the light off. It's a new kitchen, so the light switch was hidden. So someone else came around and turned the switch off. So we know it was turned off. A couple of days later, as I said, neighbour rings my auntie up and goes, the kitchen light on again. Is someone in there? Like that. The upstairs light was on, and that turned off and on for a few minutes, but it was back on. Now, obviously, you can look into faulty wiring, maybe, but it's a very old house as well, and it's always had a weird atmosphere when I've been there. Especially the hallway to the kitchen's always felt really cold to me. It's always very dark, that hallway as well. But my auntie did die there a couple of years back. She was very ill, and that was her life as from a child until she grew up. So I said to my mum, well, if it's no electrical fault or anything like that, it's probably just my auntie Veronica checking up on the house, making sure everything's all right. And, as a ghost saying, hello, I'm still here. But, well, I'm hoping that, because I'm hoping there's not someone hiding in the loft or something in the house, because that would be even more scary to me.
Yeah. If it's the same light and it's roughly the same time every day, potentially it could be someone trying to communicate, because that's what they seem to do. Because if ghosts or apparitions seem to try and go around the same time every time they try and visit, because that's particular to them. So if it's particularly the light is coming on at like maybe 7 o'clock in an evening every couple of nights, maybe on a Wednesday and a Thursday, that could be the time that your auntie went into the kitchen to make a brew. It could be something like that. And it's a common thing that was happening, and the apparition is trying to recreate what they used to do in the human form instead of in the ghost form. But with it being someone in the house, that is another possibility. The thing is, what you need to find out really is if the neighbours can hear any noises, because if someone's in the house, they're going to hear noises. Because I don't know about the house, but if you say it's quite old, I would say the walls are pretty thin, because most oldish houses have quite thin walls, unless you've got cavity wall insulation in them. So they might be able to hear people or something moving around. If they don't hear anything, I'm looking more towards a fault, like you said. It could be something as simple as the old wiring could be in series. So there could be a fault on the switch somewhere where it's picking up a live and flicking that particular light on. Yeah. But yeah, you could do a try and find out a bit more information on that if you could. If it's a particular time.
Debate on the next podcast, what will be next month.
Yeah.
Guys, as per normal, season 2 is going to be like season 1. We're going to try and get this out on the 6th, on the 6th every time as a podcast. YouTube used to be the 10th, but Morlando is a podcast. Actually, yeah, because Morlando, the podcast comes out on 10th now. I'm probably going to move this to the 11th. So for YouTube, we'll come out the 11th of every month. I don't want YouTube and the podcast coming out the same day. I know different people have different choices. Some like the podcast, some a lot like the podcast actually, and very like YouTube. So people on YouTube, please thumbs up. It helps so much. And tell me about it.
Even if you only watch for a couple of minutes, just a quick thumbs up. It switches the algorithm, gets more people to see it. Because personally, on my own YouTube, I've somehow a video it's not gone viral, but it's just taken off. Because I don't know why, it's something to do with Sedarian Ipsos, and people are just watching it left. It's got up to 3,500 views at the moment. It's only been out a few weeks. So people have liked it, people have commented, so it tweaks it, and I think more people can see it. So if you could do that with this podcast, this video, that would be fantastic. Thank you.
Also share it, people. If you think anybody else would be interested, tell them. And just to let you know, there's a few notes here for you now. We have our first guest who's going to be next, obviously, after this. But also, I'm always looking for guests who've got supernaturals. They don't have to be your own. I have to tell you, if you know someone who knows, probably someone in your family has them, but they don't want to come on, but you'd like to tell them, I have no problems with that whatsoever. Obviously, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see our faces. You don't have to have your face shown either. I have no problem with the camera not being on for you as long as we can hear you. We just want to hear supernatural stories. It can be ghosts, aliens, Bigfoot. It could be the supersized spider as big as your house. I do not care. We want to hear this. We're not going to judge you, and I normally do it. The questions I generally ask is about the story. I don't try and quiz you if it's real or not, because I don't think that's my place to. I just want to hear your stories like everybody else out there wants to hear these stories. We don't know everything, and I especially don't know everything. We just want you on. Obviously, if you want to come on Twitter at GAAB Podcast, that's Gab Podcast for Ghost Aliens Beyond, or email us on Ghost Aliens Beyond, Ghost Aliens and Beyond. There we go. Ghost Aliens and Beyond at gmail.com. It's been so long since I've said it because we had a little rest. I forgot it. Just come on. We've had guests. Check out season 1 as well, and you'll see how it works. We're genuinely friendly to everybody, and that is pretty much. Simon, did you say you had a guest for me for the next episode?
Yeah, potentially. Whether the person will be on camera yet, I'm not too sure. But if they are, I'll be doing this.
Woo!
Means anything. So I might have to make some room in the studio.
Yes, guys, and the last bit of breaking news, there is something new coming to Ghost Aliens and Beyond, a separate podcast. It's not going to be very long. I'm just going to have guests reading supernatural ghost stories, alien accounts. They're not going to be real stories. Just they could be 10 minutes long, and it's just for a bit of fun for people because that's how the show started, reading stories and that. So that is going to be Ghost Aliens Beyond. It's going to be on the same feed, but a separate podcast or a YouTube show. But actually, I'm not too sure if I'm going to put that on YouTube. I may just leave it.
I think that would be better just as an audio.
So people, we do have people. I'm going to be reading story 1 to show everyone how it works. And then I've got a few guests already set up who's very interested in doing it. We have a few guests set up for their real supernatural stories as well. Simon, before I let you go and I get over to Nick, have you got anything you'd like to shout out for?
You can follow me on Twitter at Simon and Julie. And I've got a thing potentially going on at the moment. Excuse me 1 second. I'm going to cough my head off.
About to cough, so I will talk. I hope he's better in a second.
Yeah, I didn't want to deafen you then. I brought the Simon Says podcast back. It's going to be it was a journal about my life, but it's now going to be still about my life, but it's also going to be my journey to, fingers crossed, potentially become a professional dart player. So get over to Facebook. I'm losing my voice, I don't know why. Get over to Facebook, look for Simon Says Pod on Facebook, because I'll be going live on at least maybe 2 or 3 times a week, practicing my darts. And I'm thinking about doing a little highlight show as well, because I don't go live on every single session. I'll record them and then I'll look back at me. For my own personal thing to see how I'm throwing, and I might put a little bit of highlight reel in once a week. So if you can get over there and give us a thumbs up on the Facebook and follow me on Twitter at Simon Says Pod as well. And you can listen to it as a podcast on all podcast platforms. And
before Simon chokes himself, yet again, guys, if you just listen to the podcast, check out Epic Shows on YouTube. Sometimes it's easier to put in Pod to find us, just the way it is. That's where you're Epic Florida Podcast, Ghost Aliens and Beyond, Rant Football Predictions. But if you want to listen to podcasts as well, Rant Football Predictions is not a podcast, but there is a Rant Football UK, what is just a bunch of football fans arguing and moaning about their clubs all the time. It's a good laugh. We're brand new. We're slowly growing. So check it out. There's loads of us. Guys, I don't want to keep on waffling on. So from me and Simon, we'll see you next time on Ghost Aliens Beyond. But don't go away, because straight after this break, Nic Branch, the god of the After Dark Podcast Network.
Stay spooky, guys.
Yeah, guys.
Stay spooky.
Hi all, welcome back. And our host, I'm your host. That's a muck-up. I've done Simon, if you're listening, Simon. Anyway, I've been on holiday, so I've got an excuse. Welcome back to Season 2. And Season 2, our first guest is the Messiah, the god of the After Dark Podcast Network. I'm going to get my words right today. This man has got more podcasts than me. He probably trebles what I do, and he's an absolute genius at it. So, Nic Branch, welcome.
Thank you very much for having me on. I mean, that's an intro and a half. I mean, some of that is true. Some of it's probably a bit overinflated, but yeah. I mean, if you ask me now how many podcasts I actually have, I couldn't tell you. I'd have to sit there and actually really give it some thought. How many I've actually got? It's ridiculous.
Simon has me on his. I think I do 4 plus a YouTube show. So, yeah, it's mental. But I am ending that YouTube show at the end of the football season because there's too much work involved. The numbers ain't high enough. It's not worth doing all that extra work. But
yeah, that is the problem with all of this kind of stuff. Is you've got to sort out the time to the result, really, and if it justifies happening. I mean, not that I'm going to plug on my shows, but when I've done This Is Your Life, which is come back soon, those shows would take me about 4 hours to edit. I managed to get it right down, but only because I figured out a few things to make it a bit quicker. So maybe 2.5 hours, but still, like, a lot of effort and time would go into it, and that doesn't include interviewing the person as well. So yeah, it's a big chunk of time.
Yeah, and obviously at the same time you have to try and sort out time to get hold of people as well. What's been a problem with this show last season, because I had Americans on, so the massive one of them was like 7-hour difference between me. So you've got to get them at the right time, because you don't want to wake them up at 6 a.m. in the morning to do a podcast. Yeah,
no, absolutely. We had a guest on Diz After Dark ages ago, Lewis Sutton, who does his own podcast now, like Diz Down Under, and we were trying to work out what time we could speak to him, and in the end it was like 5 o'clock his time that we did that, and he gets up at that time, so for him it was fine. He didn't mind doing it, but yeah, I don't think I'd want to roll out of bed myself and do a podcast at 5 a.m. So
I definitely find it. I'd rather stay up and do it like 2 a.m. and get up at 5 and do it. I'd rather stay up and do it.
Same with me. When I've quite often, if I'm doing something with Americans, I'll just work to their time zone, and if I start at midnight or 1, fine, so be it.
Yeah, that's true. So I understand that supernatural stuff. You've got 2 different types of stories. So which one would you like to go into first?
Well, look, the show's called Ghost, Aliens and Beyond, right? So let's start with the ghost story.
Yeah, let's listen to that. I love a good ghost story. Can you beat Craig's from season 1 though? From episode 1?
No, there's no way doing that. Mine is so weird, and it happened to me quite a while ago, and I suppose it's the same when you have something which I suppose you could describe as traumatic, in that it's still there in your head. Like, I still remember it very vividly, even though it was so long ago. So I used to live in a town called Ilford in Essex, which is like right on the East London border. And we had this house ever since, I was born up to I was about 12. This happened when I was around 8, 9, I think. And I was upstairs. We had very, very normal looking house, really. But the stairs, as they went up, there was a landing. And then the rooms kind of branched off outside of those, pun intended. And I'd just gone to the toilet. I was in the bathroom. I think I was getting ready for bed to clean my teeth and that. And all of a sudden, it was like a big gust of wind. And it was really weird. So, like, I immediately turned around and the window was closed. So I couldn't really work out what was going on. And then the door flung open. Now, there was a lock on the door, but I don't think I would have actually done. I don't remember doing the door up, and I don't see why I would have done because of what I was doing. So yeah, this door just like flung open as if it, a wind had kind of blown it wide open. And the landing where I just come up from, there was a slight dip at the top of the stairs. So you kind of stepped up onto the steps to get into the different rooms. And there was this, what appeared to be ghost just floating there. And the way I kind of, it's really weird describing it, because they looked Elizabethan, that kind of ruffled neck thing. So it had,
in colour or white?
what the ruffle or the ghost.
Yeah. Could you have a feeling like, could you feel a colour to it? Or because someone I was talking to at work lately said they think their place is haunted and they feel like the clothes are like it's a blue suit or something. I'm not sure how they're figuring that out, but in their head they're seeing a blue suit.
Yeah, I don't recall colour. I don't recall any colour. Very like almost kind of like opaque. So there might have been some colour there to be fair, but because it was kind of almost drowned out by like this the white kind of opaqueness of it, I didn't really see it. And to be honest, when you're seeing something like that, I didn't really want to look at it for very long. So I didn't like go, But I was about 7 or 8.
Yes, you would be very scared.
Yeah. You know, I mean, that's 30 odd years ago now. But what was strange was like, so it wasn't looking at me. It was kind of just floating there. And then he turned his head and it reminded me of Patrick Stewart from Star Trek, but with like a bit of a tash. Now, I don't know. Is that have I added that in because that was a familiar person at the time? I don't know. Probably, but it was a bald head, moustache, had that kind of look. But I must have only looked at it for a few seconds, and then kind of closed my eyes. And I remember running to the door, putting the door shut or slamming the door shut, and calling up to my parents. Because I didn't realise, whilst, it was floating, so it obviously wasn't a real person standing there, there was suddenly a man in this house that didn't belong there. So I just called up and said, there's someone in the house. So they've come running up the stairs and they've gone, where is he? And I said, he was at the top of the stairs. So then they've started searching. Now, there was only 3 rooms upstairs. There was their bedroom, my brother's bedroom, and the bathroom. Well, I was in the bathroom already, so he's not in there. So they've searched the other 2 rooms and found absolutely nothing. They didn't hear anything either. So there wasn't like, they didn't hear the door like slam open. They didn't hear like a gust of wind. So I just can't explain it. There was no way for me to open a door because, not that it was very long, but obviously when you're small, everything looks disproportionate. But there was no way for me to open a door to have caused that. I didn't kind of run and push the door, but I did run and close the door afterwards. So, there was no explanation as to how the door opened because everyone else was downstairs. There was no explanation to where a gust of wind would come from if the windows were closed. So the whole situation was just weird.
That is good. Did you actually feel like the presence was there to hurt you, or did you just think it was just there?
No, just there. And the thing is, like, so when the ghost turned and looked at me, I didn't. I was scared by what I was seeing, but I didn't get like an anger or an evil kind of feeling. It was more, what is this thing I'm looking at?
So it's just probably announcing itself. Hello, I'm here.
Yeah, that's what I kind of saw it as. So, not Casper the Friendly Ghost, but also not like an evil ghost from like Ghostbusters or something. Do you know what I mean? Like something kind of in the middle. Just being there, I suppose. Yeah. Now, where that house was built, there was, I think it was like a lot of farmland and stuff like that. So there were people living there before it kind of got all, modernized and stuff like that. But I never really found out anything more about that area which would have led to it. Like, as far as I know, there wasn't a particular death or something that happened on that street or that part of town. So I've got no other real explanation for it, really.
Well, it's a head scratcher I was called out then. Says, yeah, but London, very old, isn't it? So you can imagine a lot more there. I'm in a newer town in Crawley. So, but before we go to your next story, something interesting has been happening in my house. Like, if everyone remembers back to episode 1 of season 1, if they haven't listened to it, I had these, what I thought weird things were happening to me. Anyway, the last week or so, I'm obviously back at my dad's, for reasons being now I can't afford a house of my own. I'm only working part-time as well now, it makes it even worse. But I walked downstairs one day and the next day he goes to me, oh, thank you. I went, thanks for what? And looked at him like all confused. He goes, thank you, because my dad's heavily disabled now. He apparently fell down on the landing. I didn't hear anything. And he goes, you came out and helped me up. I went, I don't know what you're talking about. And I thought, that's fine. Maybe he's had a dream. Anyway, the next day, he goes to me, the day after that, he goes to me, why'd you have all the landing lights on last night? Around the same time. I went, what are you talking about? Just out of nothing. It seems to have stopped now, but when I said to him it wasn't me who picked him up on that night, I looked at him and his face actually went totally white. So either it was a very vivid dream and he believed it, or something did clearly happen. But it wasn't me picking him up. Because I put a weight in front of my door, because my door, the wind can blow it open if we got a window open. And so I put the weight there to stop it. And the weight hadn't moved that day. I had to move it in the morning. So I know there is no way I got up and went out there and helped him.
Yeah, you're not sleepwalking, lifting a weight, opening the door, picking someone up, putting the weight back and going back to bed. Yeah.
So it's a weird thing. I've told Simon about it. And Simon was like shocked. So we're trying to go through a few things. If it was just a one night thing, I would have thought a dream. But he went too white about it. It was too vivid. He said it was me. What scares me, because that could be a doppelganger. Something was trying to impersonate me. And that means I'm moving back out of this house. Sorry, I'm not staying.
Well, I mean, the question is, because, when I first met you, you were bald Phil. Now you're slightly hair Phil. So is this like the evil twin that's been locked up in the loft or something, and suddenly, and he had hair, and you've been replaced, and so for the last since lockdown, we've actually been talking to your evil twin, Bill.
No, it's not that honest. Oh my God, imagine if that did happen. How creepy that would be. I do wonder though, because this house, my family's the first family to ever live in it. It was a new build. It's only 40 odd years old, this house.
Right.
All this was just marsh area. It was all swamp. It was rubbish, beavish. So there's no reason for anything to be here. But a couple of neighbours through my lifetime have died here. One lady died very young. She was an alcoholic. She lived 2 doors down. Obviously, her son found her dead. He must have been about 7 years old then.
Jeez.
Yeah. And she used to leave money all the time for years in that house. Money would just show up everywhere. And I've always had this feeling that, like, what if she's just walking up and down through the houses, being helpful? You never know. I always said to my dad, how do you know that's not like your brother who died, I think, last year? It could be a guardian angel or anything, could have helped you up. Maybe it thought the best image not to scare you is to look like your son. Like that, because if I looked like someone else, he would have panicked. So maybe it's thought, I'll take on that form as much as possible, and then helped him up again, and then went on its way. But I say the second night was a confusing one, because my room is right next to the bathroom. So if I need a toilet in the middle of the night, I don't need to turn all the lights on in the house. I can just literally turn left, shut the door, and then I always turn the light on then, because I don't like the light waking anybody else up in the house. So it's really weird what's going on in this house. Obviously, if you haven't listened to it yourself, go back to episode 1 and you'll hear stuff what happened to me years ago in this house. And it's really horrible, freak stuff, funny enough, to do with the bathroom. So, yeah, I do wonder if someone's living in the bathroom, maybe.
Is that do you get a lot of incidents that happen in bathrooms? I'm not just talking about, obviously you and me have both had that, but would you say in general you hear that?
I've listened to general podcasts, and some other shows have had problems with things like that. But it's a strange one. It's weird how it happened.
Very professional.
On another podcast, Steve Austin's, that means you'd have to buy me a pint. Yeah, but yeah, it's a weird house. I always feel like it feels dark in this house as well. Doesn't matter how well lit up it is, it always feels like a dark house as well. And it's shaped that the sun actually comes through the windows through most of the day. So it shouldn't be as dark as it is, but it always has that dark feeling. One of the rooms is freezing cold. Doesn't matter if you've got the heater on or not, it's freezing.
Weird, isn't it?
And that used to be my old bedroom, but I've
Right.
moved out of that room. I've moved into a lot bigger one, what helped me out. But I'd say nothing's happened to me for a long time, but with him, it was a bit strange, I thought, because I don't know if anything's ever happened to him before. I haven't really asked anybody else in the family because we're a bunch of wind-ups in our family. So if I bring something like that up, I know it's just going to be a joke for the rest of the year.
Your family's a bunch of wind-ups. I'm really surprised you come from a family of wind-ups.
Well, I'm from West Ham fans like you. It's embarrassing.
Oh, yeah, well, I can understand why you'd be embarrassed for that. I mean, I know what you mean, though. Like, this house now I'm in is dark. So this is not going to be any good for the podcast episode, but hang on. So I've actually got a light above my head, but I'm very dark. So I sit here with this, like, LED lamp.
I've got one of them LED spotlight things behind me, and
yeah, that's what I've just turned on. And I'm sitting right there. The light is almost just slightly to the left of where I am, but it's so dark without it on. It's very weird. And this house is probably, I think 60s it was built, so getting on, you know. But yeah, very strange what these houses come up.
Well, if anything else happens, I'll be telling people in the future, but hopefully I'm going to hope it's all stopping. I mean, I like talking about this stuff, but I don't want to be involved with it.
Right, yeah, no, I understood.
Right, so I understand you have a story too, and it's not a ghost story.
Yeah, now this one, I struggled to tell you exactly where it happened. You might be able to help me out with that, I don't know, but we were travelling back from Donington.
Right.
So I don't know what that road is or what that motorway is. But me and my dad had been racing, we'd been watching racing at Donington. So we was going back. It was towards the end of the year. So this is probably somewhere between October and November. It wasn't that near to Christmas, but it's probably about, it might have even been late September actually, because it got dark fairly early, but not too early, right? And we're driving down this motorway, and you know sometimes you get these long sections where you know you look out, and I mean you just see land, don't you? You just see like farmland, grassland, whatever. So we're driving down, and I thought I could see something. So like I was saying, it obviously kind of caught my eye. So I started looking outside the window. And as I'm looking, and it's just this field, there was this light. All of a sudden, this light appeared, like kind of coming down. And I was like, okay, well, that's weird because it was moving. Like, it wasn't like we'd seen a light and driven past it. This light was basically going at the same speed of this car. And it's like, and it's really weird. So anyway, I'm trying to kind of like, as you do in a car, kind of try and creak your neck up because you can't see like properly. Obviously, your view's exposed. What's the bloody word? Obscured. That's it. Your view's obscured by the rest of the car. And, you know, I'm trying to creak my neck to look up to what it is. And there was this silver circular thing.
Oh.
Right. And as I said, like, it wasn't following the car. I'm not saying it was following us, but what I mean is it was traveling. Like, we didn't just go past it quickly. It was coming along with us down, you know, in this grassy field. And I said, Dad, have you seen this? So he's looked out. Now he can't see everything that I can see, but he can see the light. So he's seeing this as well. And it must have been for about 10, 15 seconds. It wasn't particularly long, but long enough to, again, leave an impression. And then it just went. Now, because it was dark, once the light went out, I couldn't see the object anymore. So I don't know if that just was still there, hovering, or if that had disappeared somewhere. But I couldn't see it anymore because it was too dark to see. Yeah. And that was it. So
did you hear anything like an engine or anything?
Whirring, like a whirring noise. Not like, so not, how do you describe it? It didn't sound like a plane engine. You know, like that sound plane. It wasn't like that. It wasn't as loud as that, and it wasn't as kind of extreme as that. It's a real kind of, you know, kind of like, it wasn't that kind of sound. I'd say more industrial, I suppose. More like machinery. But that was the only noise. There was no kind of no music or no voices or anything like that.
It's interesting because obviously I had a guest last year, Denny, I think from Miami. He went to Germany World Cup football. So
Mhm.
I went to. We didn't know each other then, so that's a bit strange. But he had the same sort of story going down a motorway in Germany, country roads at the side, and him and his friends all saw a UFO as well. So it does seem that if they are out there, they are watching us clearly, and they know not to be going to the more urban areas to be blatantly seen by all of us now. I'm sure someone's got a decent phone now can actually record something. I'm still sick of them videos we get when it's as blurry as anything, and I'm like, oh come on guys, I've got a decent phone, this wouldn't happen.
It's so hard, right? Because the problem, especially now, is that technology is so good. It's too good. So when we were younger, you'd see photos which people say, oh, that's been doctored.
Yeah.
Wouldn't they? Now, I don't know how you doctor a photo, but that was something that people were able to manually manipulate. Well, now you've got apps on your phone where you can add spaceships and explosions and all sorts to your videos. So it's going to be, even with a good, a good shot from a decent camera, it's still going to be very hard to not think something's a bit up.
That's what I'm going to say. You would need it to be in an urban city like London where hundreds of people can all record it, take photos at the same time.
Well, I don't think you even need that, to be honest. I think what you need is one good photo or video and witnesses.
Yeah. And
do you know what I mean?
Checking it over to see, because there's so many experts. They know if you've doctored something or that.
Yeah. I mean, I do believe in there being something else out there. I can't say I'm a huge believer and I know for sure, but I think there is something out there. I think it's impossible for us to be in this universe and we're the only planet that has, living creatures. Do you know what I mean?
Not so much living creatures, intelligent ones as well. Even though I don't think the human race is that intelligent personally, but
well, I mean, look at the stuff that's happened in the UK. Look at the stuff that's happened in the US, especially. We'll highlight those two. I think we can clearly say that there is a lot of unintelligent life as well. So that's my only kind of experience. So I have seen, I've seen other people's footage, and I've seen, people talk about experiences. And I think sometimes I find it really hard to believe with some of the things that I hear, but other things I do listen to and think, or see and think, yeah, I can believe that. So I would say I'm a slight skeptic, but I do believe there is more out there.
It's got to be, as you say, it's just a waste of space otherwise. Literally.
Yeah, it's true. But no, so I mean, I've never seen an alien. I can't describe to you what an alien would look like, but I definitely believe there is stuff out there.
Donald Trump looks like an alien.
Yeah, well, I'd say he looks more like.
Say so. I'm the one who takes the risk.
Yeah, no. I was going to say I think he looks more like one of the aliens you'd get in like a Men in Black, where they're kind of disguised as. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they're wearing a suit. Literally wearing a suit. But yeah, so I definitely, it's definitely weird. And the thing is, when me and my dad discussed it afterwards, neither one of us could really come up with an answer as to what it could be, because immediately you think, and the way that the light looks, you could say it's a spotlight, but then a spotlight wouldn't be traveling at the same speed as a car on a motorway.
No.
Do you know what I mean? And it wouldn't just disappear like that, which it did as well. So,
because you would know the sound of a helicopter that low down as well. It would be too loud.
Yeah. And to be honest, I mean, you'd have to, where I live, because it's quite an urban area, we do have helicopters. We've had police helicopters, and we've had, we also have air ambulances where we are as well. So quite often they're out, and they have the spotlights out, and it wasn't the same. Like, this was much brighter, and bearing in mind this would have been 25 years ago, possibly, much brighter and wider as well. I'd say more like a cone kind of shape.
Ooh,
whilst I think with helicopters, they seem to be more kind of beams, don't they?
Yeah, when it gets to the bottom as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So it didn't look like that either. And again, it wouldn't just that would have been fine had I not seen something else. Like if I'd just seen light and nothing else, I'd go, okay. But there was clearly something where that was coming from. So the weird
5 years ago, because you could have just gone like this now. Camera.
Exactly. And the only other weird thing as well is obviously, as I said, I'd seen it from outside the car. So, and that's the other bizarre thing, because I'd say it was probably about 15 feet above the ground.
Right.
So I'm not talking like it was high up in the sky. It was quite low down. So again, that was also something that was quite weird about it, because normally when you see, people's photos or videos of UFOs and stuff like that, they're, very high in the sky.
Talk about photos and UFOs and weird things before I let you go. This episode, me and Simon have just had a chat about flat Earth. What's your opinion on flat Earthers?
Well, I mean, the ground that I walk on is definitely flat for the most part. I mean, look, I don't understand it. I really struggle to understand how, with all of the technology, with all of the science, exploration and everything like that, how anyone could think the world is flat. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
People think COVID's not real either, but
that's also true. But then you'll always get people that are like that. But for me, there's just so much science around this that I don't understand how you could dispute it. Like, do you know what I had a thought of today? Funny enough, leading up to this, because I know this doesn't fit in the remit, but it's still a bit odd. I was thinking today, like, how did we get to where we are, right? And what I mean by that is, we obviously evolved and stuff, right? But where did we start? How did we learn that we had to eat food? How do we know what food was?
this is so weird because I had this conversation with a few uni students at work today. And I said, where did we come from then? And they went, well, monkeys. I went, but where did the monkeys come from in that? And I go, there had to be a point. It had to be eggs or something because no one was just giving birth straight away. I went, something happened what we don't fully understand yet. I know we understand it coming from the water and that. I go, but there's still too much of a massive gap between us and the monkeys. There's a big gap in the middle that's missing. And scientists have ideas, but they've not proven exactly what's happened there.
I don't understand how we ever can. And it's a bit like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? Well, that is, to me, is an impossible question. Because obviously a chicken comes from an egg, but then how did the egg get there in the first place? Yeah. So, that's the kind of thing that confuses me. That's the thing that I will think about and kind of tie myself in knots around. The Earth being flat, absolutely not. I had a friend who I'd always thought was quite smart, and he turned out to be a flat earther. And the evidence he presented as to why the Earth was flat was ludicrous. Like, even me, without a scientific degree, could dispel what he was suggesting was proof that the Earth is flat. So, yeah, that worries me that we are now, and I suppose that's a problem of the internet and the way that we can all communicate now, is that before you might know somebody who thought like the world was flat and you could take the piss out of them a little bit. But what you've got now is Facebook groups and forums and, Telegram and all this kind of stuff. So you get people, like-minded people, all being able to communicate together and spread this further.
It is funny because the question I always ask them, if the Earth is flat, why does the moon look round?
Yeah.
And they don't have an answer for it. But one of them, the most ludicrous one I've heard is that the moon's not real and it's a projection by NASA in the
Yes. Yeah, I've heard that one. I mean, the only thing, I get why it is confusing as to what it could be, but even if the Earth was flat, and what I mean by that is that everything is kind of flat, right? You would go across in a straight line. The actual planet itself is round. There is no disputing that. You can't dispute the planet is round. Like, it's very, very obvious that it's round. unless everything we've ever seen from space and from telescopes and all kinds of stuff is completely wrong, which I don't buy it for a second.
We'll win that argument, because when we come out with photos, pictures, proof like that, their answer always is, oh, it's been photoshopped to look like that. They have, and then when we say to them, well, you show us your proof, they don't seem to have. If they show me a photo, I know they're not going to like me saying back to them, that's photoshopped.
Yeah.
So it's a non-winner argument. The only way you're going to win it is going up yourselves.
Yeah, and I think there was. I mean, I don't know if it was actually genuine or not, but I know that the Flat Earth Society they used to have conventions. I guess they still would do if it wasn't pandemic time. And they would like say, you know, we have people coming from all around the world. Well, they can't come from all around the world if it's flat.
The Flat Earth Society from around the world. I used to giggle at that all the time. Someone goes, "There's a hint in that name."
Yeah, exactly. The clues in the title there. So yeah, it fascinates me, and I know Craig on a podcast once had an interview with a flat earther, but I couldn't bring myself to listen to it because I thought I'm just going to be screaming for an hour at this person with what they're saying. So yeah.
Flat Earthers listening, any of you are listening out there and you want to have an argument about it, you want to put what you believe the facts are, I don't mind you coming on. You come on and you can say what you want. I'm not going to judge you myself. I'm going to let you have a fair forum and tell people why you think it is, and then people at home can then decide for themselves. So if you want to come on to the show, by all means, come on.
I'm sure it'll make an interesting episode, actually, to be honest.
Make sure I'm not in one of my wind-up modes.
Yeah, you got rein it in.
Yes. Anyway, Nick, you've been a star. Would you like to quickly tell everyone just a few? Because we'll be all night.
Yes. Yeah. Well, yeah. We're time limited, aren't we? So yeah, I do mainly theme park based podcasts. So Disney Parks and Beyond, and that Universal podcast. You can find me there. And My Disney Life and Alice's Magical podcast are two others. And that last one is one I do with my 7-year-old daughter, where she runs circles around me. So yeah, that's quite a nice fun one. But she's getting there. Yeah, she doesn't think she is, but she is, and she'll find out soon enough. But no, thank you for having me on, Phil. It's been a treat, and yeah, best of luck with the rest of the series.
Let's hope I can get a bit more higher numbers than I did last time. It's not really the big thing that worries me because I just enjoy doing this. But anybody, yeah, again, if you want to come on, get hold of me on Twitter at, I think it's GAB Podcast, or even email me at ghostaliensandbeyond@gmail.com. Yeah, again, Nick, thank you very much. And everyone, see you next month for another episode.
Thank you for watching or listening to another great episode of Ghost, Aliens and Beyond. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram at GAAB Podcast. If you have any supernatural stories you'd like to share yourself, email us on ghostaliensandbeyond@gmail.com. And remember, grab the popcorn, turn the lights off, and prepare to be scared.
This podcast is part of the After Dark Podcast Network.